Folks are into symbolism. Symbolism. They want something that sounds good. Generalities and platitudes seem to sell the day. I'd like to give you just some very short examples of this. And I'm going to actually use two prior presidential campaign slogans that when you really think about it, and this has nothing to do, it's not knocking either of these politicians, but just campaign slogan, a generality of platitude. That's why I'm going back a little ways. In the 2008 campaign, we had Senator Barack Obama, who would eventually become President Barack Obama out of that election. And we also had the late Senator John McCain, who ran on the other side against him. And if you really think and you look at it, they both have campaign slogans. And every campaign has them. So again, this is not a knock on either Mr. Obama or Mr. McCain. This is just trying to show you, when you really think about it, what in the world does this mean? Mr. Obama's slogan, if I remember correctly, like, change we can believe in. Sounds great, sounds wonderful, but when you really think about what in the world does it mean? Mr. McCain's slogan was the Straight Talk Express. What in the world does that mean? I mean, what is it? And now we have people who are putting up slogans for churches. A church for people who don't like church. Don't come to church if you don't like it. I mean, let's get real. We have got to begin to get past generalities and platitudes. Again, we've gotten so used to it through political campaigns, through just things that happen, through commercials. Commercials do these very things. And a lot of times don't even make sense. This is why, that's symbolism. Let's get deep into the things. A lot of people will look at, in a campaign, they'll look at the slogan, and they'll look at the person who's running, and are they a decent looking person? Do they look good? And a lot of people vote that way. It was said that during the 1960 presidential election between who would be President Kennedy and eventually President Nixon, who was vice president at the time, that President Nixon looked horrible on television, and that was one of the reasons he lost the election. President Kennedy understood putting makeup on and looking decent for the camera, and President Nixon, who would become president later, looked horrible, didn't understand that. That's symbolism over substance. Do they look good? What is the generality? And and then people complain about the politicians after they vote for them after they've hit the generality, instead of actually, why don't you go and look at their website and see what they actually are talking about doing? Same thing with Christianity. Why don't you dig into the Bible instead of listening to what some person on TV is saying, or some mega ministry, or somebody who is just posting something on Facebook? I see so much lunacy on Facebook that is basically symbolism. We need some real substance to what we're doing. You know, if I'm going to have a good solid meal, I want a meat, and I want a potato, and generally a vegetable, maybe a nice glass of tea or something like that. Symbolism is going to a fast food place and getting a hamburger or a chicken sandwich or something. There's nothing wrong with that. You can feed yourself on it for a little while. But we really need to have a balanced diet in order to do things well. I'm really wanting to be talking about that, it appears. But we need real substance to our faith. That's why it's so important to get into God's Word and read. That's why it's so important to pray daily, to have a daily devotion that you go to and work with. There are several great devotions, solo devotions, wonderful devotion. The NALC puts out a daily devotion. There are several. A lot of times I post things. There are some good, solid devotions out there. And also worshiping regularly. You need to be in God's house. If you want to have the substance of God over symbolism, let's get serious about God and get into His house, get into His Word, get deep into those things. Because a lot of people have no idea what God's Word truly says. It's just, well, I heard this, I heard that, or so-and-so says this. That's not the way it should be. It should be, have we gotten deep into God's Word? Again, let's get over the generalities and the platitudes, and let's get down into God's true Word. Most everybody has a Bible, but very few people read that Bible. Pray today that you would grow in God and in His grace, and we love you and we appreciate you, and many blessings till we meet again.